stepped off the stage in Philadelphia. Harris's team called for that rematch. Polls indicate that the vice president was the victor, even if the race for the White House remains too close to call. But what can we read into this decision not to debate from Donald Trump? From Republicans Overseas, Erol Morkoc, and Kristin Kaplan-Wolf, chairperson of Democrats Abroad UK. Good to have you both on with us. Thank you. Erol, first of all, do you think Trump is finally realising Kamala Harris is a formidable opponent?
I wouldn't look at it like that. It looks like President Trump definitely, to his base and to the people who support him, everybody's side says they're winning the debate, right? So on Trump's side, he says he wins. Kamala's side, they say they win. We look at the exit polling, or whatever you want to call it, from undecideds. The core issue that's up for debate here is the economy, and that's where Trump outperformed Kamala. And so I think it's really coming down to actually the choice of venue, right? So Donald Trump has been debating against hostile anchors, 3v1, some are saying, and Kamala Harris isn't going to debate Trump on, for example, Fox News. Now, would all of us, just regardless of political affiliation, like to see another debate? I think so. But I think we're, a little bit too close to the end of the line here, and Donald Trump himself is kind of disgusted with the whole process. He's disgusted with the fact that he's fact-checked and Vice President Harris is not fact-checked.
Well, I think she is fact-checked. I think there's we've certainly got fact-checking on our own website, and there was fact-checking on the night.
Well, there's little ones. So you can imagine, take the ones that was the big headline news about them eating, Haitian immigrants eating pets, right? That took a big bunch of the news cycle. Well, the fact of the matter is, people in that community were saying it's true. Now, he's being fact-checked by a city manager. News outlets have failed
to find evidence of that, I understand.
That's not how according to our research, we have people in that community who are going out and stating that this is occurring. We have them on record, and we have videos, and we're happy to put that out there. They have a city manager, which is not a real position, who's claiming he wasn't reported that.
So you have a video of what? Someone saying that immigrants have eaten their pets?
They're talking about ducks especially, and then there's, of course, the cats that went missing. But the problem there is not to get lost in the weeds. The point is that is 100% fact-checked, but when Kamala Harris comes out and tells a bold-faced lie, which has been debunked by Snopes, even a far-left website, about Donald Trump saying Nazis are very fine people, there's no fact check on that. And so that's where it comes to a situation where we don't feel that it's an honest and good faith debate, and we'd much rather either have a neutral platform, which Ms. Harris won't agree to, or go to the election as is.
Well, let's bring Kristin in here. I'm keen to get your views on what Erol's been saying, Kristin.
Oh, my goodness. Well, where to start? But, I think what you just heard from Erol was the same old MAGA playbook that has been out there and that Donald Trump and everyone in the MAGA movement has deployed. And that is one of insults, lies, and then you throw in these backward policies and sprinkle in an occasional conspiracy theory. Someone else is always to blame. The fact of the matter is that Donald Trump had a very poor performance to the point where it was embarrassing. He was talking about this cats and dogs thing. And by the way, a city manager position is a real position in every city that has one. So it is just, I think what it did, though, is first, let's look at the bright side. We had 67 million people tune in. A lot of those people are independents who wanted to get to know more about Kamala Harris. And and there were also Republicans out there who, in good conscience, cannot vote for Donald Trump, but they need that extra little nudge to put the box, tick the box for Kamala Harris's name. And I think what she demonstrated to them is that the vicious attacks that have been launched against her by the Republicans and Donald Trump are pretty much unfounded. And if they needed confidence to vote for someone who is presidential, who has a vision on how she's going to build out the middle class, she gave detailed policies in the confines of a 2-minute, answer that she was allowed to give about growing the middle class, about getting small businesses off the ground with a $25,000 incentive, all kinds of really exciting, new, forward-looking things, as opposed to the long list of grievances that Donald Trump, we've heard him a million times before. And by the way, when we talk about lies, he stood on that stage once again and told the biggest lie of all, and that is that he lost the U.S. that he won the 2020 U.S. election, and he lost it by 10 million votes. This is the fundamental problem, and I think that this is what is not only motivating our base, but that desperately needed persuadable middle ground. And, we're working out here every day in the UK trying to register American citizens to vote. Anyone who's listening, if you know of an American citizen, get them to go to votefromabroad.org. Ballots start to drop next week. And we need every single vote that we can get in order to send Kamala Harris to the White House. Every congressional race in the country that is up, we got to get those people filled with Democrats so that way she can accomplish this very ambitious
Kristin,
agenda she's set out.
Let's talk about the TV debates. I'm keen to get your thoughts on the TV debates. Erol, looking ahead and looking at the past, how important are these TV debates? Does it impact voting, do you think, Erol?
Sadly, they've become less and less important as the echo chambers have grown more and more distant from each other. We used to have a country where the two parties were much more, let's go with, aligned. Yes, we might disagree on taxes, or we might disagree on certain forms of religion and government and stuff like that. But for the most part, throughout, let's go with, modern history, the parties haven't been diametrically opposed as they are now. Now you really are hoping that there's an undecided person who's apparently not watched any news, made no opinion on people like Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and somehow from this 1 hour, 1.5 hour thing is going to get the information. But all of that's on social media now. Kamala is speaking to her constituents and moderates in social media. Donald Trump, same thing, constituents and moderates through social media. So the debates, which used to be the only way to gauge a candidate's positions, there's no policy left in debates whatsoever. It's just both candidates effectively disagreeing with entirely the worldview of the other candidates. So while I'd like to hope that we get some value out of it, they've really diminished in, let's go with, and user result to a detriment of the country, if I may add.
And Kristin, what do you think the impact of television debates have? And obviously we're having them here in the UK. It's become a part of our election process, very much like you've had for quite some time. Do you think that the impact on how voters are thinking? Kristin?
Yeah, I do think it's important. And in fact, I think it's actually the same reason why Donald Trump didn't participate in the Republican debates during the Republican primaries against, others who are trying to win that nomination from the party, is they do have an influence, and it allows people to judge the candidates based on how they not only describe what their vision and their policies are going to be, but how they actually appear in person against each other, how they stack up. It makes an easy comparison. And so I think that the debate on Tuesday night, it was so important actually for people to see these two candidates side by side. Yes, of course, you can go out and you can do your additional research, but actually that first impression, if you are unfamiliar with the candidates, and keep in mind, we have a candidate in our party who has just come to the scene in a big way, unexpectedly, but now here she is, and she's going to have a vice presidential candidate that's also going to be largely unknown across the country. This is a high impact moment where she can quickly start to get out her message and portray why she is presidential, unlike the former president who appeared remarkably unpresidential, and that embodied what his whole 4-year presidency term looked like.
So, Erol, would you like to see Donald Trump take part in another television debate? There will be voters who haven't made their minds up, obviously. Do they not have a right to see both candidates up against each other?
Absolutely.
I think they certainly have a right to some degree. I would also point out that we did have a primary. Kamala Harris and the Democrats did not have a primary. They just coronated her after kicking Joe Biden onto the curb. So that's neither here nor there. Absolutely every American would like to see more debates between the candidates. I think everybody in politics would like to see it. But it comes down to game theory in the end, and whether or not President Trump, who's an asymmetrical candidate, he's not going to do things that are normally done. His tone, his candor, the way he carries himself, it's very off-putting, especially to our Democrat colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And so unless he's given a, let's go with more friendly debate crew, somebody who's not from the opposition, ABC, who he has a lawsuit against, CNN, these people, unless they do a debate with some of our guys, I don't think Donald Trump should be involved going forward, because we're in the pole position. We're leading exceedingly for the Electoral College victory, and we plan to take that to Election Day.
Just both of you, if you would, just finally, Kristin, what issues do you think will come to the fore over the next few months? Because we are, I suppose, we're speeding towards November now. It seemed a long way off. It's not that much more. We're getting into the last kind of laps, aren't we? What do you think will be focused on?
Look, I mean, unequivocally, people are focused on the economy, and they want to know how these candidates are going to help them. And what we know is that Vice President Harris has a plan to help working families and to really get the economy going, not to the benefit of billionaires, but for the ordinary woman and man on the street just working to get by and wanting to get ahead. And so that's what I think is going to be the big thing. Abortion is a huge issue, and it is one where Donald Trump has a real problem because what he did in terms of putting these justices onto the Supreme Court that ripped away women's constitutional rights that they've held for over 50 years. I mean, those are things that get people motivated to get out and go to the polls. And so I think those are going to be some of the big ones that are going to be having the biggest impact.
Erol, what are your thoughts? What do you think are the issues that are going to come up over the next couple of months, the final few laps?
I think everything comes down to the economy, right? And nobody wants the Biden economy. If Harris had all of these great plans, she could have helped the current regime do that for the last 4 years. People want to go back to low interest rates. They want to go back to no wars. They want to go back to a pro-business environment. And when Donald Trump was president, we had the most pro-business environment. You had wage growth for everybody across the board, especially from the bottom up. And you had protections in terms of border protections that protect the lowest quotient of our labor force, which is people who are affected by illegal immigration. So all of these are going to tie into an economic message. We want the Trump economy back. We want the Trump stock market back. And we want to go back to an inflation situation that isn't current, because the majority of Americans don't own stocks, by the way. Only 10% of the people do. Okay. And the market is driven by like 7 stocks right now. So the average working man and woman are not getting the gains that this sort of inflation economy is giving. So it's going to be an economic message all the way to the end. And that's how Trump's going to become president.
Good to speak to both of you, and no doubt we will speak over the next couple of months again. Thank you so much for joining us. Republicans Overseas, Erol Morkoc and Kristin Kaplan-Wolf there from Democrats Abroad UK.